Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Blu. I am here this morning with Thomas Coppolino, and he has written a book, Rikers Island, Freedom from Within. And he was the former Deputy Warden on Rikers Island. It's really good to have you here today.
Thank you, Karin.
Your story is compelling. It's really interesting. It's written so much so that you really feel the power of what you went through on Rikers Island. Tell us why you wrote this story.
Well, first and foremost, I wrote the story to leave a legacy to my family, to future generations of my family, so that they can say, this was my grandfather, this was my father. He had an amazing career in the New York City Department of Correction, and this book shows the 22 years when I started in the worst jail in the system to when I retired I started as a correction officer, I retired as a deputy warden in command of a facility. And I wrote the book for that reason.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to leave something about your life to your children, our struggles, and hope that they learn from it. The future generations really understand where they're from.
Yes.
So what brought you to Rikers Island?
Well, at the time, I lived in Brooklyn with my wife and children, and I had taken all different tests to like sanitation and whatever, and the correction test, and they had called me, and I had an uncle on the job, and I decided to go with correction. I didn't. You don't grow up planning to be a correction officer.
Right.
It happened, and I just took it, and the rest is history.
I noticed in one part of the story, it almost sounds like you're standing there with a group of other people that have passed the test, and you get called out that you're going to be on Rikers.
Yes.
How does that moment feel? Like, is it just?
It was scary because when we went to a training academy. The training academy was in the old Tombs in Manhattan on White Street, and it was 3 weeks of training they gave us back in 1978. And you go into this 3 weeks of training, and all you hear is, you don't want to get assigned to HDM, which was the New York City House of Detention for Men.
Right.
You don't want to get assigned to HDM. So now the captain comes up, and he's got the job assignments, and he starts reading the names, and he's reading them off, and then he says, Coppolino, HDM. So I'm like, oh my God, and
wow.
Then I went there, and now I know why. Very shortly after that, I know why everybody said you don't want to go to HDM.
But do you know why they specifically picked certain people to be there? Was there something that identified you? No.
The department has needs, and wherever the holes are that they needed they needed a certain amount of people in this jail, a certain amount of people in that jail, and they just picked people and put them in there.
All right, so here you are. I love the part of your story when you say that your badge is shiny. Everyone could tell you're a rookie.
Yes.
And you try to, make it, burn it a little bit so it doesn't look as shiny, but
we would
the inmates
we would
know.
take like rubber bands, and we would burn them, and so that the soot, or whatever you want to call it, the carbon, would go into the shield and make it look like you had some time on the job.
Right.
And you put it on, and you walk into the housing area, and they're all laughing. The inmates are all laughing, and they go, here comes fresh meat, here he comes.
Yeah. And how does that feel the first day to be on a job and you have no gun?
No.
You really have, you only can depend on the other guards, right, to the other officers to help you. So
it felt very scary. I mean, I very graphically put it in the book where you can envision going into an area. There was 240 cells in a cell block and 4 officers. One officer was on the B side and one officer was on the A side. So one officer had 120 cells, a day room, the bathroom, that whole area that he was to patrol by himself. And you're locked in behind there with all these guys. And they're all running around, and they're hanging on the gate, and they're all
reckless.
Yes, it was just so it's very scary.
Right.
And then one of them took an empty milk container and put it on an empty milk carton and put it on the floor, and they can see I'm nervous and I'm walking around like this.
Right.
And then they step on it hard and it goes pop.
Right.
And then I go, like this, and they're all laughing.
Wow.
And it was just
That's really scary. And I recall a part of your book where you said you were walking down a hallway or something, and one of the inmates just came up and punched the person you were with.
Yeah, that happened to be in one of the cell blocks. It was on a search. We were having a search, and my boss was a captain, and he was walking with me, and this inmate came out of his cell, and I said to him, "Get back in your cell," and he goes, "Coppolino, you're getting really, why are you being so mean?"
Right.
And I started to laugh, and the next thing I know, the inmate punched him square in the face,
Wow.
broke his nose. He went back like this, and
Right.
then let's just say the inmate paid dearly for what happened.
When you wrote this book, what kind of message were you looking to send to either the public or to other even officers that are in the same field?
The message of the book is that if you want to be successful in life, I tell a whole part in the book about, I decided at some point, my wife and I were going through some financial things, and I decided I want to retire as a warden. So I said to myself, I went to the jail I was working in, and I knocked on the door of the commanding officer, and who happened to be a Christian man, and he says, "Come on in." And I said, "I want to know why you're sitting in that chair. You tell me why you're sitting there, because I want to be in that chair." So he goes, "You really want to know, kid?" I said, "Yes." I sat down with him, and he laid out a plan for me, and I just followed that plan. I went home and I told my wife, "Listen, for the next year, I'm going to be studying really hard for this promotional test, and I need you to bear with me, and I need you to cut me some slack."
I think she was bearing with a lot with you.
Yeah, but the same message I give to. I work right now in retail, and I have a lot of young people. I'm a customer service manager in a wholesale club, and I talk to a lot of the young people that work for me, and I tell them, "What do you want to do with your life? You need to have short-term goals. You need to have long-term goals."
Absolutely.
And I said to them, before you make any decisions, you need to go to someone who's successful in what you want to do and say, "Why are you there?" Just like I did with this boss of mine.
And how wonderful that he even took the time to really lay that out for you.
And as a matter of fact, when I wrote this book, I found him, because he's 80 years old now.
Right.
And I got his number, and I called him up, and I thanked him, and I sent him a book, and I just made his day.
That's
to know
great.
that he affected my life the way he did.
That's great. Speaking about your wife, I can't imagine what it felt like to have a family member that you're going to work every day. Your kids, your wife. What did they say every day to you? I mean, you mentioned, just to interrupt you for a minute, you do mention that you're not afraid every day going to work, even though you had to be bussed there, bussed back, you're on this island, and you don't have a gun, you kiss your wife goodbye, and this is where you are all day.
Well, you have to, how they were feeling, I really don't know. I know that she was nervous. There was one time that there was an assault of an officer on Rikers Island, and it just so happened that this other officer worked in another jail, but he had the same last name as me.
Wow.
And it went all over the news. And I could just imagine, my mom called me, and they thought it was me, and they were terrified.
Right.
These
You're not
inmates,
texting, "I'm okay."
Yeah, I know. You can't. They didn't even know what texting was.
Right.
But there were, so people are nervous.
Sure. And your kids, what do they think now of you? Now that you've written this book and you're retired, what do they feel? Have they expressed any concern?
They're proud of their father. They're proud of their father.
They should be.
Yeah.
And I have to ask you, Thomas, what has your relationship been, and is there any relationships with any of the inmates that were there during your time?
There's no relationships that I carried on with,
Right.
But at the time, I spoke with many inmates and touched their lives in a positive way, and I would let them know that that even though they were in jail, see, the freedom from within is the name of the book, that they could be freer inside of a jail than the correction officers that are working around them, who are full of hatred and bitterness and have all this stuff inside of them.
Sure.
That even though they have to pay back society what they did.
Right.
But if they put their trust and hope and faith in Christ, that they can be free on the inside, and they don't have to carry that baggage anymore in their life.
Right. Your story is very much in tune with a strong faith, and I really respect that about your book. It really carries you through some pretty horrific times. And everybody will have to read the book to hear those times. But I have the sense that there's more in you about success and faith. And is there another book in you?
Oh, there will be another book.
Okay.
I don't know if... I know I'm going to write children's books because I've already done that. But
Great.
This kind of story, there won't be an addendum to this because this is my story.
Right.
So, but there are a lot of people still out there who have read it who are going, when you're writing another one, when you're writing another, they want me just to write another book.
Right. Well, it's very easy to read, but it's compelling. And you write as if you're in the situation. You can feel it. You really can feel it.
There's one I don't know, there's a lot of humorous stories in the book too. If you like humor, you're going to like the book. I tell these stories. There's one in particular that everyone really loves, and it has to do with Mark David Chapman, who was the person who killed John Lennon.
Right.
And there's interactions between me and him that I won't. If someone's going to read the book, I'm not going to tell
Spoil
you exactly
it.
what happened.
Yeah.
But there are stories of interactions with him.
That's
and
interesting.
that everybody. And one of the reasons that I wrote, besides the legacy, is that even on social media, I have a notes section in one of my in Facebook, and I write stories from that happened to me, and the comments go for pages and pages, and people kept saying, "Why don't you write a book? More. We want more. We want more."
Right.
So I said, you know what?
It's time.
Let's just do it, and that's what happened.
It's excellent that you have done it, and I think that you should send it to every officer on Rikers Island. Now, what's interesting to me is that, first of all, that you had expressed in the book how you had to shut the cells with a wheel. I mean, if you were trying to, how fast did that happen? You're trying to do a lockdown or something. I could just picture you with a wheel trying to shut the cells and keep everything.
Yeah, well, everything was, there was a row of 20 cells, and there's a big wheel, and they're all pins. So you can either shut them all at the same time or individually do it.
Okay.
And
Has that
you have
system
to turn.
changed?
In the jail, yeah, well, every jail has its own nuances.
Right.
In a cell area, that's basically how it works. Then
Okay.
you have a lot of, in the jail system, there's dormitories, there's all different types of housing.
Wow.
areas. But where I started, it was all cells.
Right. And you did have experiences with inmates escaping.
Oh, yeah.
In particular, there were 3 inmates at one time that escaped, and you guys were all looking. And one of the men were found dead, correct?
Yes, that's right. Actually, 4. They
Okay.
cut out one. I couldn't believe it. They cut out one small bar,
Yeah.
and they greased their bodies down, and they were able to, 4 of them, fit through this small hole that you wouldn't believe that they could fit through.
Wow.
And then at the time, Rikers Island did not have, like now, each facility is surrounded by razor ribbon and layers of razor ribbon, but then there was none of that.
It was just an island.
Yeah. So you got out the door, you got out the window. It was on the 2nd floor. They got to and then they got to the water, and
Right.
the currents around Rikers Island are very rough.
Right.
And the 3 of them decided, listen, I'd rather be alive
Wow.
and recaptured than to be dead. One of them tried to make it. We actually thought he made it until he washed up by the Verrazano Bridge.
Oh, wow. Great stories. I urge everyone to read some more stories. This is Rikers Island, Freedom from Within, and this is by Thomas Coppolino. And you know what I really like about your book, to be honest with you? I was reading some of the excerpts with my children. It isn't anything that you can't share. It is family-oriented.
Absolutely.
I really respect that, because you could have gone into
I
some
purposely
greater
made
detail.
I purposely made it so that the reader could also use their imagination. I would say up to a point, and this happened, and then you can imagine what happened after that.
Right.
There's no profanity. There's no.
No.
It's made for people to read, and
But fearful enough, there is enough in there that they don't want to go to Rikers. So
Oh, yeah.
share it with your children for sure. We don't
That's
want you to go to Rikers. So tell us what you're up to now, what the future holds for you.
Well, I'll be 63 years old in March, and I'm going to be working in the retail for another 3 years, and then when I retire, there'll be a lot more writing involved, but there's also going to be a lot more ministry involved.
Okay.
I'm going to go back into prison ministry. I like the at the end of the book, people get towards the end, you're going to see amazing things that I was able to do because of my faith, and people knew that I was a Christian. And then as I rose through the ranks, I was able to bring in these big crusades to the department where thousands and thousands of lives got touched. So it gave me a real zeal for prison ministry, and that's what I'm going to be doing when I get out.
That's fantastic. And I think that having a certain amount of faith can certainly help when you're going through a time like that and you feel stuck.
Yes.
That's great. Really, everyone should get this book, Rikers Island, Freedom from Within. Thank you so much, Thomas, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
Where can people find your book?
Well, I have a Facebook page, and if you're on Facebook, you can go in the search bar and write the title, Rikers Island, Freedom from Within, and that'll bring you to the book page, and it'll give you all ordering information. That's the best way, I would say.
That's the best way. But I heard that on the way here, you stopped at BJ's and picked it up. BJ's in Islandia, right?
Oh no, they don't sell it yet.
Oh, they don't.
They don't sell. I've been selling a lot of books to people who know me. That the employees over there. Oh, you wrote a book. We want it. And
oh, that's great. So you stopped by there and got it. Okay, yes, so if you know an employee over there, you can definitely get it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Really interesting stories. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This has been Karin Caro, again, here with Thomas Coppolino, Rikers Island, Freedom from Within. Please look for it. You can find it on Facebook. And where else can we buy it?
Zulon Press is the publisher, and the book sales line, there's a phone number. It's 866-909-2665, and you can
purchase it through there. I think the easiest way definitely is to go right on Facebook. It comes right up when you search Rikers Island even. It came right up. Yes. It's great. So thankful to have you here today and share your story.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
Best of luck to you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Daily Blue.